Marlinchen is basically a beige Becky. If she was a spice, it would be flour. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Juniper and Thorn with spoilers, and I'm also going to be doing a cooking segment in the second part of the video where me and my friend Holly make a recipe that was featured heavily in the book. Juniper and Thorn is a book by Reid that is marketed as a dark fairy tale. I have seen this book all over the internet and I was so excited to read it, but I was actually really sadly disappointed with the book. This book is based on a Brothers Grimm fairy tale called The Juniper Tree, and I'd never heard of that before I'd read this book, so I did look up the Wikipedia page on it. I would say that it's not necessarily a retelling, but it's more of an inspiration. Let's talk content warnings, and oh boy, there is a laundry list of them. The warnings include gore and body horror, child sexual abuse, incest, cannibalism, xenophobia, physical and psychological abuse from family members, self-harm and suicidal ideations, bulimia, and animal death. And this book somehow managed to still be painfully boring. Marlinchen is the main character in her early 20s. It is said throughout the story that she's not very smart, she is very docile, very obedient, and she's plain-faced. Now they say that she's plain-faced probably a million times in this book. Her dad says it, her sister says it, she says it about herself.
Now that you're old enough, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, and I think you're ready to hear it. You're not very pretty, and you're not very bright. I'm so glad we had that talk.
Marlinchen is basically a beige Becky. If she was a spice, it would be flour. Now, even though Marlinchen is basically ordinary in everything else about herself, she is actually a witch. Marlinchen's father is a wizard whose gift is shape-shifting, not himself, but objects around him, so he can transform simple objects and make them something more interesting. His gift used to be really popular in the city of Obelia, where this book is set, but there was a big industry boom, and so things like the telephone, like light switches, like electricity were invented, and his gift is kind of obsolete. People find that they're able to do the things that they wanted to do just by going to their convenience store rather than needing him to transform and bewitch magical objects. So their income is limited, and so the father is starting to struggle to maintain their living and their estate, and so he basically starts to pimp out his 3 daughters who are all witches, and so he uses their gifts to bring in money. The oldest sister, Undine, is able to scry into a little pool and look into the future. Apparently, she's not very good at it, but she still gets a ton of customers because she's a super hottie. So they just want to come and stare at her. She'll like flash her calf at them, and they would pay any amount of money to continue to see her. The middle sister, Rose, can create like tonics that will rival medicine. So basically she creates potions and people will buy them for all sorts of minor ailments. The youngest sister, Marlinchen, the main character, is a flesh diviner, so she is able to touch people and divine secrets from their skin. The father, at some point, was cursed by a witch in the city when he was doing some shady business stuff to deter customers from seeing her and instead promoting his own business. The witch cursed him so that nothing was ever going to be good enough. His daughters would never meet his expectations. If he slept, he'll never feel rested, and no food will make him feel satiated. Unending hunger is a huge theme in this book. Marlinchen, on the other hand, has an eating disorder. She's bulimic, so we see her binge and purge quite often. She talks about the gratification with throwing up that she gets after eating. And she really talks a lot about self-harm throughout the book. She talks about peeling her skin off in like a little thin ribbon. She thinks about cutting her nipples off with gardening shears, and that happens on more than one occasion. So their father is super controlling. He wants to keep the girls under his thumb, so he basically forbids them from ever leaving the house. They're never really able to roam around or date or go into town. Now, because of how controlling their father is, the older 2 sisters, Undine and Rose, have been sneaking out at nighttime. And so in the beginning of the story, we see them bring Marlinchen for the first time. Now, Marlinchen, in her first outing, is just a whiny little baby. She is really, really nervous, super anxious about breaking the rules. And so the sisters all go to this ballet. The older 2 sisters are noticed because they're beautiful, and Marlinchen is not because, again, she's plain-faced. So she's in the crowd and she is watching this ballet, and she sees the most beautiful man that she's ever seen in her life, Sebastian, who is the head ballet dancer. Now, as they're getting seated, Marlinchen overhears some people discussing some local news. Basically, there have been men that were found on the docks out by the water whose livers were plucked out and their eyeballs were ripped from their faces. Because of the grim stories that she's hearing and her overall anxiety about being out and about, even though it's breaking the rules, she gets into a panicky state, and after the ballet, she runs outside to get some fresh air. Now, when she's outside, she sees a man puking, and it turns out to be the lead dancer, Sebastian. He is an alcoholic and just chugged a ton of vodka, so he was just puking his guts out outside. So the girls wind up getting home without a problem. Their father is none the wiser, and so that's the end of their little excursion. Now, the next morning, there is this huge cooking scene, and there is a lot of food featured in this book. Basically, every morning, Marlinchen wakes up really early to make this feast for her father for breakfast. And that consists of Varenyky, which are these little dumplings with a meat filling. So she'll have like a big thing of like congealed meat filling in the fridge, some pickled red cabbage, sour cream, and a drink called kvass. Every morning her dad comes down and she watches him eat this huge breakfast that she's made, and it's a ton of work, but again, nothing's really ever good enough for him because of his curse. During a lot of points in this book, Marlinchen is in the kitchen and she is like, oh, there's a glass of black juice here. I don't remember making it, but I must have, so I'll just drink it. Or there is a huge vat of meat filling in the fridge. I don't remember making it, but I must have, so I'll just use it. And I just could not get over that. I mean, how could you not remember doing something and being like, this is fine, this is normal? But again, they talk about that she is not very smart, so I guess that checks out. So anyway, later that day, Sebastian, the dancer, is actually brought to the wizard's house by his manager, who is basically like, my prize ballet dancer is super duper sick. How is this happening? What's going on? So Sebastian and Marlinchen basically lock eyes, and it's unspoken that they're not going to talk about what happened last night. But she is just a nervous wreck. She thinks he's so sexy, and she's blushing the whole time that she is working her flesh divining on him. Now, she's really shy and shaky, but when she does touch his skin, she basically sees that his manager has been sexually abusing him. So instead of saying that, she sees that and it's driving Sebastian to drinking heavily. She makes up a lie for him and says it's something about the ocean air is making him sick. So Sebastian is super grateful that Marlinchen lied for him. So he's like, thank you so much. I appreciate you, baby. Why don't you come to my ballet? I would love to see your face in the crowd. And she's like, hell yeah, you're sexy as hell. I will definitely be there. But as soon as Sebastian leaves, her dad basically just calls her out on being like a super horn dog and is like, hey, you can't be this horny for a man. I don't trust you. You and your sisters can never leave the house again unless you have a handful of black sand. Good luck getting it. Now, her sisters are rightfully pissed. They were like, bitch, we took you out one time and you got us all imprisoned here because you wanted to have sex with the first guy you laid eyes on. Now, they paint her older sister, the oldest one, especially Undine, to be this villainous, mean girl character. But to be frank, the sisters were the only parts of the book that I liked. I would also be super pissed if my dad was controlling and oppressing me. If I was in my late 20s and then I had this little thing where I could still sneak out and my little sister was a moron and messed it all up. So Marlinchen goes to take a bath, kind of unwind a little bit, get away from everybody because everyone's mad at her. And so when she's in the tub, she finds it's not draining right. So she puts her hand down into the drain and she pulls out a handful of black sand, which is the only thing that she can use to get out of the house. And then she shows her sister Rose, who is like, where did you get this? Now Marlinchen tells her the truth, but Rose doesn't believe it because it's unbelievable. So she's like, whatever, it doesn't matter where you got it, just don't tell Undine because she'll definitely steal it for herself. So Marlinchen goes to the ballet that night. She sneaks out with a little clamshell of black sand. And when she's there, she has a great time. As she's leaving, Sebastian chases her down and is like, hey, I'm so happy you came. Let me take you out in the town, like, let's go out. And so they have this really awkward first date. Now, I don't really understand it, but they fall in this like insta love. Like, he is a smitten kitten with her, and I don't really know why. He's supposed to be so handsome, very famous, a worldly ballet dancer, and she is somebody who is pretty boring, again, plain face, and she's never really lived life outside of her house. However, they are just all over each other. Now, we get little snippets of Marlinchen's backstory. At one point, her mom lived with them and was lovely, but her dad like transformed the mom into a bird and then eventually killed her. And so we just get these little sad pieces of her past here and there. So in one of the cooking scenes, Marlinchen goes to their fridge and she is about to make the big breakfast when she realizes that their stock of food is completely out. So she's panicky. She is worried that her dad's gonna be pissed. And so she goes to him and she's like, Dad, I don't know what happened, but there's no food in the fridge. And he basically just gets mad at her, like, obviously I got super hungry and ate it all. Now you have to fix it. So the dad brings in people to buy Marlonshin's mom's old stuff. And Marlonshin is devastated. This is like all that she has from her mom that's left over, but her dad's kind of a dick and he's hungry all the time, so he just wants to have their like fridge full of food. So at some point the dad figures out that Marlonshin's been sneaking out and he is pissed. He decides that to get back at her and her sisters from hiding this from him, he's going to invite a bunch of like gross, icky suitors to come, and if they're able to tell him how the girls have been sneaking out, he will let the suitors pick whichever daughter they want to marry. Now, the older sisters are like, what the heck, this is not fair. She's the one that's been sneaking out, and you know that they're gonna pick one of us because we're pretty and she's not. And Marlonshin's like, yeah, I guess that's true, sorry. Now, the suitors start to live with the family, and they're pretty bored being there, and at one point, one of the suitors goes missing. Now, it turns out that the dad, like, killed him and ate him, basically, so this is where the cannibalism comes into play. And unknowingly, Marlonshin was making Varenyky with his ground up body parts in it. Now, there was a part where Marlonshin's dad gets mad about something. I feel like he's mad all the time. And so he turns a boot into a little Scotty dog and then murders it and then eats the dog. And I just wonder, why was the cannibalism necessary if he can turn objects into like chickens or food sources? Why do you need to eat people? Unless he just has a taste for human flesh, which I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the guy's a super weirdo, but I just couldn't get past that. Now, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but essentially where the plot was moving was there was a bunch of people going missing in town with their organs ripped out and their eyeballs ripped out. And so there's kind of this mystery of who is causing this. Is it a monster? Is it a person? And at the same time, Marlonshin and Sebastian are falling in deeper in love with each other. And so they want to escape her father for good and basically get married and go somewhere else. Now, I know this is a minor part in the book, but I also couldn't get over it. But when Marlonshin loses her virginity to Sebastian, she does so in a room that is full of glass shards and broken mirrors, and they have sex on the floor, which would just never, ever, ever happen. Don't have sex on the floor full of glass shards. It's not safe. The writing was all over the place. The plot was all over the place. There were some plot reveals where I had to reread the pages before, like, how did this revelation happen? Did I miss something? But it just was really thinly linked together. I just feel like she had ideas and just went with it in the moment. It was just a modge podge of plot points that seemed to be added solely for shock value that didn't really add too much to the story. And the whole thing, frankly, was so boring despite all of these shocking taboo themes. I still don't think I really grasped the full plot. I feel like for the first 80% of the book, nothing really happened, and then it all came snowballing together very quickly at the end. The pacing was just really off for me. I really hated how the older sister Undine was villainized and brutalized. I did not think it was deserved at all. She had been caught in the garden having sex with this monster that was like a centaur, and Marlonshin basically approached her and called her out. The two of the sisters got into a fight, and after that, Undine's body was found the next day, just absolutely mutilated. She had a really grisly end. Like, she's just a girl who's been abused by her dad for her whole life, and there's a lot of trauma there. I wish she had a redemption instead of a grisly death. It's also revealed that at the end of the book, Marlonshin's dad has been abusing Marlonshin in a certain way that I won't spoil here, but you never really understand why. The drive behind the actions was so confusing to me. It didn't make any sense at all, and I just didn't understand why that was such a big thing in the book. I don't think I've ever been so disappointed in a book. I was so looking forward to this, and I can't recommend this because for me, this was definitely a 1-star book. If you like this book, that is great. Different strokes for different folks, but I personally was just not very into it. Now, I did make a video yesterday with my friend Holly on a cooking segment that I would love for you to stay tuned for because it was so much fun in the kitchen. We made the Varenyky from the book, and we had a blast doing it. Cool. Hello from the past. I am so excited to introduce you guys to my friend, Chef Holly.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you, Chef, for joining me on the very first episode of
Reading and Recipes,
where we're going to be making a dish featured heavily in the book Juniper Thorn. The dish in question is Varenyky with red cabbage and sour cream.
Ooh, sounds delicious.
Varenyky are Ukrainian dumplings that are traditionally filled with potato and onion, but in the book, our main character, Marlonshin, actually used the meat filling for hers.
Now, human meat was used in the Varenyky, but we strongly suggest that you use ground chicken instead.
Oh, okay, this is the part where I give you a gift.
Me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a surprise.
Oh my god.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it was on the counter the whole time.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for my
You're gonna love it.
Stop it right now.
Okay, and there's a second part of the surprise. It's actually a couple's apron.
Stop it! Oh my god, look at my coconut.
I know. Look at my abs.
You're so hot. And it's just my bra size.
Because Varenyky are typically made with potato and onion, it was hard to find the exact recipe that we wanted, so we're going to Frankenstein a couple of different recipes. For the dough, we're going to use the homemade pierogi recipe from vegetarianadventures.com. For the filling, we're going to use the chicken pierogi recipe from fettysfoodblog.com.
Okay, let's get started.
Yes, chef!
The special equipment we're going to need for the filling is a food processor. The ingredients list for our filling is going to include 1 pound of ground chicken, 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of mustard, 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley, finely chopped, 2 green onions, also finely chopped, a half teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of pepper. Okay, now it's time to combine all of our ingredients. First, we'll start with the milk. Then we're going to add the parsley. The green onions. The mustard. The mayonnaise. And a whole lot of human meat. I mean chicken. Hey chef, can you pass me the paprika?
Yes, chef.
Thank you, chef.
What is it, girl? Is little Timmy stuck in the well again?
And as for me, I measure with my heart.
Love that, chef.
Thank you, chef.
So we're gonna freestyle it a little bit. We're gonna just deviate from the recipe in that we are going to cook the filling down and then put it in the food processor to mince it. So it's a really nice creamy filling. So I don't want to cook it through all the way because we're still gonna have to boil the Varenyky, but we'll go ahead and put it on heat for maybe like 3 or 4 minutes before we process it. So it's a little wet. I think we're gonna use a slotted spoon to put it into the food processor. Smells good though. So we're gonna spin this down until it's a fine paste so it'll be easier to put inside of the Varenyky and fill it with. I'm scared.
All right, so the filling is cool. We're gonna put it in a piping bag.
Unappetizing.
Put it up. Come on. You know you wanna. All right, so now for the dough, we're gonna need 6 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 cup of milk, 3/4 cup butter, and 2 eggs. Okay, so we're ready for our dough, but the only problem is not all of these ingredients are gonna fit in it. So we're gonna do half at a time. All right, and hey chef, can you pass me the salt?
Yes, chef.
Thank you, chef. All right, let's get it started.
So it came together as kind of a shaggy dough, so we decided to take it out of the food processor and knead the rest by hand. If your dough is too dry, add a little bit of milk. If it's too wet, add some flour. So we just ripped off a piece of our dough. We are using our KitchenAid mixer with the setting set to 7. If you don't have a KitchenAid, you can roll it out by hand, but if you do, I would put it on 7, and we're gonna start with a speed of about 4. same time. Okay, so now we are cutting our pasta dough to make circles, which we will eventually turn into half moon filled pastas. We're gonna fold over the Varenyky, make sure that it is completely sealed. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and put some of these in. I guess we will just do it in batches.
How many do you think at a time?
Maybe like 10.
Okay.
Hey chef, should we pan fry these in butter?
Hell yeah, chef. Ready for that sizzle?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, chef.
Hell yeah, chef.
Lost one there. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's 9:13 at night. We severely underestimated how long this was going to take us.
Hours. We didn't cut corners though, and I'm proud of us for that.
Woohoo!
Okay.
So, in the book, Marlon Chen has a lot of her meals black bread and butter. We don't have black bread.
I don't even know what that is. I got a new bread maker, and the only thing I know how to make in it so far is wheat bread. So we're gonna just do that instead.
We love wheat bread.
For basic, it's fine. Okay, stunning. How thick would you like it?
I think
Thick or thin?
maybe like that thick.
Oh, damn, she thick.
Maybe,
All
I
right.
don't know. Is that wrong? It's too late now.
I already scored it, so.
Would you look at that? Okay.
Do you like diagonally or center? Now, this is gonna determine a lot about you.
Center.
Me too! Thank
Okay.
God. The center is the right way. That's nostalgia.
I agree. All right, so here we are about to try it. We are so excited. We put sweat, blood, and tears into this.
Quite literally.
It took us 5 hours.
Don't say that out loud.
It took us an undetermined amount of time to make this.
We made this in 30 minutes because we're housewives.
So throughout the book, Marlon Chen drinks kvass, which is a cereal-based, low-alcohol fermented drink, which I could not find anywhere. So instead, we're subbing it out for some Eastern European beers from the Czech Republic. We have Pilsner Urquell. Cheers!
Cheers. Ooh, I like that.
Me too. That's really, really good.
It's got like a vanilla flavor to it.
God, that is easy to drink.
Pretty sweet. I like it.
Okay, moment of truth.
Yes, chef.
I'm nervous.
I hope to God this tastes good. Can you
Better.
imagine?
It better.
Okay, so tell me how you eat this.
We have the Varenyky. You want to eat that with a little bit of sour cream, and I think potentially with the red cabbage. I'm gonna do a little bit of both.
Okay.
But she has it with her red cabbage, sour cream, and then she eats it with bread and butter. So
Okay.
we have made it.
All right, great. Cheers.
Bone apple teeth, baby. Thank God.
Thank God.
Wow, that is so good.
That might have been the biggest bite of my life, but worth it because that was so good.
Man, this is so good. It's disappointing because I never ever want to make this again.
No, this will be the first and only time we'll ever eat this.
We'll savor
This is
it.
a breakfast food in the book.
Yes, it is. So she makes it for her dad every single morning for breakfast, and that man still thinks it's not enough.
Honestly, I don't see this as a breakfast food, so maybe that's why he's so upset the whole book. But it's good. I just couldn't imagine waking up at 8 a.m. and popping one of these in the microwave.
No, but what a way to start your day. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun for us to make. I hope it was fun for you to watch.
This is our first episode. Hopefully we're gonna make plenty more after that. I promise I'll read the book next time. And yeah, I think that this has been a really fun, long, but fun night.
If you like this video, please subscribe and I will see you soon.